Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to our podcast called Extra Holes. I'm John Adams. This is Scott Ainsworth. And we're here to more or less have this fun little podcast that we've put together like two guys sitting at the 19th hole, having a couple pops with the guys and gals. It's just a fun little back and forth little podcast that Scotty and I like to talk golf. So what we've done, we've played in national golf tournaments all over the United States, kind of have some input on what happens on the tours. And so why not start a podcast and express our views and viewpoints with this nice, fun little podcast. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Tiger Woods situation. Really sad to see that who I consider, the GOAT of our era, and seeing him being put in a drastic situation. We'll talk a little bit about what happened on the PGA Tour and the young guns starting to take charge out there. And Nelly Korda backs up her sister with a nice little win down at Lake Nona in Florida. Kevin Sutherland backs his way into a nice little win in the desert in Tucson. And so what's new for us this year is we're going to have a special guest. We're going to have Dr. Chris Sherman on board to talk a little bit about car accidents, motorcycle accidents, how somebody, that breaks multiple bones, how they recover, time. And Dr. Sherman is a traumatologist, an orthopedic traumatologist, and he's been able to find some time for us to sit down and have a great time discussing. Well, I don't know if it's a great time discussing some some bad situations when it comes to accidents. So, Scotty, why don't you take it from there?
All right, John. Say traumatologist 3 times fast, would you?
No, thanks. I tried to do it twice and it didn't work. So,
well, we could easily start with talking about the concession and how hard that damn golf course was. And but I think there was a story in golf which transcends golf that if you're not familiar with, you must have been sleeping for the last week. Happened a week ago, and that's the Tiger Woods story, which is a worldwide story and very sad, very tragic. I think a lot of people jump to conclusions. There still might be some conclusions to be made, but I think one thing's for sure, everyone's glad he's alive. Everyone knows he's one of the greatest ambassadors that golf might ever have. Maybe argue with Mr. Palmer, whose tournament is next week at Bay Hill, which we'll just nibble on before we're done. But you're from California. Tell the audience a little bit about that road that he was on. And I guess that's like Accident Alley or something.
Yeah, it's, up in the hills there. My nephew actually played high school baseball, actually literally at the top of that hill where he started his descent down. And there's some sharp curves and it can get bumpy at times. And again, I think we're the first one to tell you we're not going to speculate anything about what's gone on with Tiger Woods. I know there's stories going all over the place, but, obviously you can get going fast down that hill and you can lose control.
Plus, he was in a rental. He was in like the courtesy car for the week, the Genesis courtesy car. Yeah,
and, there's people talking about he was leaving in a hurry, he was late, blah, blah, blah. It is what it is. It's a sad situation. And, let's look at the positives here. He's still a father of 2 children, right? He's still a son of a mother, right? And he's still with us. So that's the positive out of this whole thing. And hopefully, somebody that is in his situation, a very, very good athlete, obviously he's probably going to get the A+ best care ever that any athlete's ever going to get. So hopefully, we can get a whole team behind him and with him and get him out of that bed and up and running and hopefully soon back on the golf course doing what he's best at.
Yeah, I was, I don't know if you saw any of it, but it was pretty cool. Yesterday across all the tours, a lot of people wore the Sunday Tiger red and black. And I thought that was pretty awesome. Anywhere from Rory to Phil to Annika, Colin Morikawa, your winner at the concession, tried to wear it and couldn't get the red shirt in time. But I heard there was a story behind Phil's red shirt. Yeah,
so it's kind of funny. He mentioned that. He goes, look at, I don't wear red, so I actually had to go purchase a red shirt. He's in Tucson. he went to ASU, so he had to buy a University of Arizona. So he wore a sweater. It could have been 180 degrees outside. He was still going to wear a sweater over that red shirt to never see Phil in a U of A shirt. But I thought it was just special across the world, where everybody is, trying to, show their, and by the way, they should be doing this. I mean, look at the amount of money that these guys are playing for. And
oh my God,
a lot of it has to do with the Tiger, right? So
we can talk about it later, but Morikawa was tearing up, and he was, sad about his grandfather who had passed, and also about Tiger being his mentor. And it was a damn good interview. Yeah,
it's great. And getting to our interview, my interview with Dr. Chris Sherman, why don't we go ahead and get that going right now? And it's a pleasure for Scott and I to have our first guest.
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's about car accidents and stuff like that. But here's our interview with Dr. Chris Sherman. All right, new on Extra Holes, we've got our first guest, actually, Dr. Chris Sherman. Chris is a practicing orthopedic traumatologist out in San Diego. He actually fixed my foot, and thank you very much for that, Chris. I know it wasn't a big surgery like you're used to be doing, but I'm back in playing golf again because of Dr. Chris Sherman. And, he deals with a lot of, bad accidents on a daily basis. And he has seen it all when it comes to all different types of traumas and bones being broken and going in all different directions. And, Chris, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about and bring you on the show, and first of all, welcome to Extra Holes, the podcast.
Thank you very much.
First of all, let's stop here. How's the golf game?
Continues to improve as I learn more about the intricacies of the swing and some of the stuff that you've taught me, and just getting out there a little bit more. It continues to improve, but like everyone, it's a work in progress.
Great. There you go. So getting back to it, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, when you see some of these major car accidents and as you call them, I see sometimes polytraumas where there's a lot of multiple breaks in all of the body. What is kind of the main things that, a doctor is looking at a patient and wanting to, how long is something like this is going to take to heal? And then what is the progression down the road when it comes to recovery?
So, John, what I'm going to do is sort of start from the beginning, and then we'll expand on all these kinds of things. What may happen is an individual may be in a car accident or an alternate type of injury. They're not able to ambulate, and they're brought in by the EMT crew or a paramedic crew. They're on a backboard, and any lower extremity injuries or ankle, knee, pelvis, femur, all these are provisionally splinted. They're seen and evaluated by the general surgeon, trauma surgeon in the various hospitals, as well as the emergency room staff. Provisional evaluations are done with X-rays and computed tomographies or CTs. The trauma surgeon, general surgeon, determines what injuries are present and may contact an orthopedic surgeon or a neurosurgeon or a plastic surgeon, depending on the various injuries. Typically, in a car accident, we see a lot of lower extremity injuries. A patient may slam their foot on the ground and sustain injuries similar to what you had, but on a bigger level. May hurt some of the midfoot or the hindfoot, the calcaneus, the talus. In higher energy mechanisms, may injure a part of the ankle called the plafond, or have an axial load injury, which is called a pilon type fracture. It signifies a higher level of trauma, and it is a type of mechanism that progresses into the joint or exemplifies a axial load type injury. Then, of course, as you go up the leg in the tibial shaft, that's a long bone. And then your femoral shaft is also a long bone. Those are typically treated with intramedullary rods or rods that go into the bone. You may have some soft tissue injuries like an ACL or a meniscus, or an extensor tendon injury, which is inside the knee, and that may result from a knee hitting a dashboard or the mechanism of the dashboard pushing against the knee. And those are typically found at a later date after an MRI or an additional study is done. So that sort of talks about major lower extremity injuries. As the velocity or the mechanism is moderately higher, you may see something that involves the pelvis or the pelvic ring. And those are moderately more life-threatening. If the pelvic ring was to open up, it creates a significant area of volume, and a patient can bleed out or bleed into that area. So the general surgeon or the trauma surgeon may initiate some life-saving measures. So I'll sort of stop at the pelvis and the lower extremity and talk a little bit more about the exam that happens when a patient comes into the trauma bay. There's an entire team, nurses, radiology technicians, orthopedic technicians, and of course, the trauma surgeon leads them all. They may get some labs and they may get some x-ray studies and determine what injuries exactly are taking place. Once the x-ray studies have been completed, they may contact the orthopedic surgeon and deliver the information as to what the findings are.
Gotcha. So is it also a situation when you have broken bones that have actually, compounded, gone through the skin and stuff like that? Are we looking at also like what's around it, right? Muscles that can swell and get close to arteries and nerves and stuff like that. So is there somebody else along with yourself that has to come in and work after you're done? Or is that, how does that all go down?
Absolutely. So the one thing that you touched on is a clear understanding of terminology. The word compound is a little bit antiquated, and at some points that was confused. And so they've dumbed it down for everybody. The words open and closed provide clear and concise information about a type of fracture. And that does delineate whether the skin has been broached and the bone may be sticking out, or if it's a closed injury and the bones are inside the soft tissue envelope, that may simply require a straightening out or a manual reduction to return to its native positioning. So when you ask about open injuries, clearly that's a significant soft tissue compromise. And when I talk about osseous injuries or bony injuries, I always talk about how the fertile soil of the soft tissue and skin needs to have a nice bed to assist in healing. So certainly that's plastic surgery, and they manage soft tissue injuries. And sort of as a caveat, you talked about neurovascular injuries, and that involves our vascular surgeons, and that's part of the very important aspect of the traumatologist. When the general surgery evaluates patients, they do a clinical exam, a hand-over-hand exam, assess the motor and sensory aspects of the patient, and check a pulse on your foot or check a pulse on your ankle. And should there be a loss of pulse or a loss of blood flow, that certainly involves additional studies and a vascular surgery consultation.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with like Alex Smith's situation, right? I think was that an open break that broke the skin? Yes. So now, when you're putting all that back together, I think don't you have to I guess the key word there is infections, right? Like you guys really got to worry about infections, because infections can turn into, and I'm not saying that he ever saw this, but can infections turn into amputations and stuff like that because it's gone bad, right? Or I don't know.
Yeah. So the discussion of an amputation certainly is a pathway that's far down after a trial of all conservative and invasive measures. There is a higher risk for infection with open fractures, depending on which literature you quote. could be 3 or 5 times higher than a closed injury. But certainly when you evaluate initial injuries and you evaluate the patient, you process a great deal of information and you make your decisions on surgical treatment and methodologies for treatment based on protocols and your own personal interactions and past happenings. And there's pretty specific guidelines on how to treat certain injuries, and certainly risk of infection, neurovascular injury. There's various things that are inherent with surgical intervention. And at points, we look to do surgery, and at a later date, if it's infected or has a complication to some degree, we have to take out the hardware and try an alternate route or various things like that. But amputation is reserved for last line of treatment, and that's after the patient's had a good amount of time to think about it, evaluate the various additional modalities you can intervene with, and made that decision.
So one of the is the hardest part with somebody like yourself, and it's sometimes trying to put a puzzle back together, is a broken bone is a broken bone. You know, like you said, you put the rod inside it and you set it, and it heals itself. Is the hard part about your job is when you see shattered bones? Is shattered bones almost like trying to put a puzzle back together? Is that when it gets really complicated? So
the word shatter in a orthopedic or a medical term is comminuted. I heard someone on ESPN use the word comminuted, and they said that that's the first time they had ever heard that word. I think shattered is a media term that glorifies or makes the average individual understand that the degree of force and the significance of the injury. But a comminuted bone is typically the case for a motor vehicular accident or a motorcycle injury or a hand glider accident. All these things imply to you the mechanism of injury being a significant force.
Gotcha. So when you're looking at a recovery situation with somebody that's got multiple bones that are broken and stuff that is shattered, as we just discussed, is it a recovery situation of a bedridden state to a wheelchair state to learning almost how to walk again?
So there's certainly different stages, and different injuries have different implications for weight bearing. As mentioned, the intramedullary rods go through the bone, and they're meant for loading. The earlier you start weight bearing on those, the better they do. They create a micro motion, and that implies and initiates healing. When we talk about various ankle injuries or various injuries that go into the joint, that does require a period of non-weight bearing or protected weight bearing to allow for the areas to heal prior to initiation of full weight bearing. So there'll be a time frame where an individual may be 25% weight bearing or 50% weight bearing as you get x-rays every time you see them, which may be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then serial examinations dictate your progression in weight bearing status. Your discussion about physical therapy or the processes of physical therapy are wide ranging. Just doing passive range of motion, where a therapist or an individual may gently move the ankle around or move a joint around, keeps the tendons and ligaments involved and limber, and maintain some degree of muscle mass. If you're not loading a muscle or you're not loading a joint, it does become a little atrophic or a little weaker. But any passive range of motion then leads to active range of motion, then leads to weight bearing, then leads to higher degrees of activity and stresses and exercises. And it's generally a progression. I tell my patients pretty much any lower extremity injury is going to be between 3 months and 4.5 months time frame for their healing process. I like to really stress the value of soft tissue healing. Once the skin and soft tissue envelope is healed, that promotes bone and joint healing much faster.
Yeah, I remember I was a slow healer when I was working with you, and I remember in my rehab I had to put I was lifted up in with air actually, and every time I went to my rehab, I slowly got to put more weight on, and they released more of the air. It was a cool little treadmill that I worked on, but it was crazy that it lifted me up, and I was almost like I was walking on cotton, and then it just worked slowly. Surely got myself down to where I was walking on a treadmill constantly. So, yeah, I mean, I just think the rehab for something like this, that when you have so many bones being broken, I mean, it's you're looking at 6 months, right? Something big like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you did mention Alex Smith, and certainly he had a dynamic course where I think they said he had about 17 different operations, but he persevered and he put a lot of work in with physical therapy. I think that we recognize that professional athletes have a great deal of ancillary personnel that get involved, and it may be a massage therapist, it may be a direct manual therapist that's involved, acupuncturists and chiropractors, and a wide variety of devices that allow for a professional athlete to heal and get back to their trade a lot faster than maybe the average citizen. So certainly you were on a zero gravity physical therapy system, and that's a nice adjunct towards any lower extremity physical therapy process. A lot of patients may experience physical therapy in a pool, which replicates that type of process. Right.
Well, you know, I know you had a long day, you had a long weekend. I know you're dealing with a lot of trauma over the weekend, and I know that you just got done with a big one there. So, you know, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and giving us your expertise. And you know, hopefully soon we get to go out and play golf here real soon, because I know it's always a lot of fun to play with you.
Yes, I look forward to that also.
All right, thanks so much, Christian. I appreciate it, and we'll see you on the golf course.
All right. Good night.
Cheers. Bye.
Boy, that was something else. No, that's pretty good insight, John. That's a good poll. I'm glad you got him on, because I didn't know a lot of that stuff at all.
Yeah, you know, it was quite eye-opening about the amount of people that are getting involved into surgeries like that. You know, it's just not the doctor comes in and starts doing, you know, bone grafts and putting pins in and screws in and all that kind of stuff. You know, there's a whole team behind this, because there's stuff that you have to deal with when it comes to infections and, you know, cosmic surgery, you know, of now when they have now, quote, open wounds and closed wounds. You know, we used to call them compound fractures, aka Alex Smith, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot of cosmetic surgery that needs to go on there too. So, yeah, it was probably, you know, the doctor, you know, he probably said a lot of words you and I don't understand, but
that wouldn't be hard for me.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, how he broke down like what somebody that has multiple fractures and shattered ankles and stuff have to go through. I thought it was a great way to kind of see, you know, what those traumatologists have to deal with on these surgeries sometimes are 6, 7, 8 hours long, and they have to break these surgeries up. So
well, I'm sure he'll have to have more surgeries, but that's not for you and I to understand at this point. But thank you so much for getting him on. That was very insightful. And just to know what happens with anybody that gets in a crash, that was good information.
Yeah.
Should we,
Chris? Yeah.
So should we slide into what was a hell of a golf tournament and a hell of a golf course?
Yeah, it was a beast there at the concession. So why don't you go into that?
Well, because of COVID, they couldn't play in Mexico, so they played at the concession club, which there's a lot of different end stories. Paul Azinger and Gary Koch were doing the play-by-play and the color, and both those gentlemen are members there, as well as I think I know Nelly Korda is, but I think the whole Korda family are also members of the concession. Mm-hmm. But the golf course one, it was interesting to hear Zinger talk about. I mean, I like Paul, and you could tell out of respect, people weren't trying to asshole the golf course. But like that 13th hole, I mean, those guys were chipping it back and forth and back and forth. I mean, I'd love to play that course once, but I'm not sure I'd want to be a member there. Yeah,
I agree with you. I mean, why do you want to sit there and probably have 35 putts around, or be in a situation where you've hit a quality golf shot and you short-sighted yourself, or because it's taken some type of swale and you're looking at, your playing partners going, I got no chance here, right? So to me, that's not what I want to spend money to do on a monthly basis,
I grew up playing parkland tree line courses, and you can make the tightest tree line course. Like, oh, by the way, like the Palms, that it was good to see you last week. We played the Palms in La Quinta this last week, and I can hit it straight on those all day long. But you put a pond on one of those sides, and there's just something that goes in here. It's like, don't hit it there, don't hit it there.
And then all of a sudden you stripe it, right? You stripe it down the middle of the fairway, and now you're looking at your caddy going, which is the best way to hit it into this green?
Which elephant do I want to try and miss?
Right, exactly. What part of the elephant do you want me to hit it into? Like, it is so, but I don't know, Scott, like, do you find it somewhat entertaining to watch a PGA Tour player struggle like that? Or do you want to see, now again, it's, it was a big golf tournament, 47 of the top 50 were in there. So, and I feel like the best guy did win, to be honest with you. So,
yeah, but they had 47 of the top 50 players in the world, John. That's a no-brainer to say that. Shit, everyone's good there.
Right. Right, exactly. Well, my bad. Yeah. But you're looking at the top 50 in the world struggling, you're watching guys making 6, 7, and I don't know, do you like that 13 hole, that par 5, that was in a situation where they're saying, you're not going to want to go for this green in 2. Right. You're not, but these are the way these kids think, man. It's just green light go and aggressive. But I almost feel like the play was to be able to spin something and hit something aggressive in there just to kind of leave with 5. You know what I mean? So,
well, here's my take on it. It was even though not my favorite golf course, it was cool watching. My take on it was it identified the best tactician. So I'm not a big bomb and gouge guy, and maybe because I don't hit it 225 on the fly anymore. But I don't like the bomb and gouge, and you couldn't bomb and gouge there. I mean, you literally had to think your way around the golf course.
Right.
And I think Colin Morikawa at 23 or 4 has proven that he is a veteran. He is absolutely going to be a force to be reckoned with for a long time.
Yeah, and he's the first one since Tiger Woods to actually win a WGT and GC and a major under the age of 25. And that's just and that's the other thing is, getting into the young guns, right? So here's Morikawa coming. Scotty Scheffler has a great tournament also.
Victor Hovland.
And Hovland also had a good golf tournament. So there's these young guns. And then you have a guy like Wolf who shot 83 and just trunk slams it. And, I have not seen, and I don't, hopefully it's not because I didn't do my research, but I haven't seen anything on the internet why he pulled out. In the past he's had hand problems or any type of an injury, but as of now, I've seen nothing. And in my mind, I just think that's Bush League.
I read nothing, no apologies. He has WD 2 of the last 4 weeks. Now, you're going to disagree with me. The kid's 21. I mean, he gets a little bit of a hall pass, don't you think?
No, I don't. And the reason why is because he has managers, he has a team, he has people around him to help him make these decisions. You're 83. Like, okay, so here's the deal. How would you feel if you're the first alternate and he goes and throws 83 and trunk slams it and he doesn't finish out there? You know what? If you're hurt, I'm 100% behind you. Go ahead and withdraw. But if you're not hurt, put your time in. You never know. You could be in the middle of a round and find what's wrong with your golf swing and find it and be able to play great. Look what Justin Thomas did. He was 4 over and he ended up playing great for the rest of the tournament. So I'm the one that says, you know what? You take your battle. You go for it and you figure it out. And,
you're Commissioner Jay Monahan. What do you do? Go ahead, Commissioner.
I have a meeting with him and say, hey, look, this is not the right way to do things, and I don't want to see this again.
Well,
but I mean, do I have the power to say that? Because there's a whole players association that.
I know players board, but hopefully the players board reprimands him. Hopefully the tour does. One of the good things I like about the tour is we won't find out about it.
Right.
They'll pull his ass into Ponte Vedra and sit him down and say, "You're 21. Don't do it again."
Yeah. Or you've reached out to the agent and you said to the agent, "You need to have a little come to the Jesus meeting with this kid."
Right.
So.
I mean, he's a draw right now. Okay. But he does stuff like this and he's not going to be a draw and he's not going to be able to get sponsors. So I'm just disappointed that he has not had a public apology. I would have thought for sure there would have been a public apology. Yeah. And what do we do every week, Johnny? What do we give away?
The Trunk Slammer Award.
Slam dunk. Matthew Wolf.
Peace out.
You're out.
Right, exactly.
Pull your ass up and play 72 holes. That's if you make the cut.
Right.
Good God.
Yeah. I hear you.
There's a secondary tour, actually PGA Tour, secondary tournament in Puerto Rico, which actually had a couple of good storylines.
Yeah, it was obviously quite windy down there, but it looked like it was the wind cheater won the golf tournament. Brandon Grace, who came back to win that golf tournament. It's another great storyline. He lost his father to COVID.
He did. I
want to say last month, I think it was, and I want to say that that was a nice little special win for Brandon Grace. So another one like Morikawa. I mean, going back to the tournament, the PGA tournament. I thought it was great that he just said, "You know what? We don't say thank you enough." And I thought it was great that he just looked right in the camera and said, "Thank you, Tiger Woods, for everything you've done for us."
He did, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
another good storyline out of Puerto Rico. Two that come to my mind. Number one is Rafael Campos, who is a local boy, 32-year-old, kind of a journeyman. He was in the lead, a 54-hole lead. And to my second point, what was really cool about it is there was a gallery. I mean, it was almost like a Davis Cup tennis match. I mean, they were hooting and hollering for him, and it was good to see. And they actually had a couple thousand maybe at the WGC event in Bradenton. But it was just good to hear the fans again. I mean, for some reason, people were excited that Brooks, Ricky Bobby Koepka was making birdies. That's something I didn't touch about. His interview afterwards, he says, he goes, "Yeah, I didn't win. Second place means nothing. You either win or you don't." I'm like, "Oh, okay, there, Talladega Nights boy. Give me a break." You know what? He's a great player. I give him respect. If I had to pick a dream foursome to ever play with, he wouldn't make the 144-person shotgun. He wouldn't be invited.
Yeah, it's
not even close. What an asshole.
Right. Yeah, it's just some people don't think before they speak, and that's.
I might have just done that too.
That's all right. Yeah. But Nelly Korda backed up her sister down there at Lake Nona there in Orlando, and so the Korda sisters have the back-to-back wins there from
Very
the Diamond Resorts to now the first one of the year for the LPGA. And you know what? To be honest with you, I think it's great that we're seeing, and I'm not. Don't send me down an avenue, but it's great to see American girls in the mix and winning and stuff like that. Again, it was awesome to see Annika come back and play, and I think she proved to herself that she wants. One of the things is she wants to play in the Women's Senior Open this year.
Yeah, she announced that she's going to do that.
That she should, and I know that you mentioned that she got popped for a one-shot penalty on something on the first day, but she took it like
she took it with the grace that she is. Yeah. She's easily the biggest ambassador in women's golf, if not of all of golf. Right. She is a true champion, and we're lucky to have her in our generation. So, and they play next week. I believe they play in the Golden Ocala, which is in Ocala, Florida.
But not too far down. That was on the. It's been on the schedule for a while, actually, in the past. So,
how about
what? Go ahead.
Champions Tour, is that our next?
Yeah. Kevin Sutherland backs his way in there at Tucson to take it away from Mike Weir. Phil actually went back to his roots there and where he had won before in Tucson and didn't play so hot.
I was surprised he plays good.
Yeah. I actually think there's some some issues there with the confidence of his golf swing. I have a feeling. So
well, it was windy and cold, and I don't think he's a windy and cold player anymore. I mean, who is when you get to be our age? I mean, it's just,
but I mean, those golf courses are so short for him. You know what I mean? He should be hitting wedge into everything. So
yeah, I know, but it was Mike Weir's tournament. He had one.
Right.
He led most of the way. He had a 2-shot lead with 3 to go and finishes bogey, par, bogey, and Sutherland makes this unbelievable chip in on 16, 2-putt birdie on 17, and hits it to 8 feet. Didn't need to make it, but it was. I feel bad for Mike Weir because I think he's a good dude. He also plays at the Palms where we played last week, and it was secondary to watching the concession, and because watching that tournament, literally. Just to jump back, even though Morikawa had a 2 or 3 shot lead coming in, even on his second shot on 18 at 6-iron over the water, you're thinking, God, if he dunks in the water, we still got action. I mean, It was one of those tournaments where it was never over until the last putt went in.
Yeah, I agree, and there's a couple things that he, when I started seeing him on the back nine, there was nobody in the golf tournament that was driving it better than he was, and right when I started seeing that, I mean, it was like. He was going to pick up the tee, and the ball's just off the tee. So I had a feeling that his golf swing was not going to break down. I thought he was somebody's going to have to get really, really hot to beat him. But,
and I thought it was great that he said that.
Yeah, I thought it was great that he, he thanked Paul Azinger and Mark O'Mara, because, hey, you don't usually see a young kid going to a claw,
he went to the saw.
Yeah, he went to the claw and he went back to a new putter. I mean, Azinger helped him with chipping and stuff like that. So I know that. Sorry, folks, we're kind of going all over the place, but yeah, it was. I think we need more Colin Morikawas in the world, to be honest with you. But
let's stay with the regular tour and put a bow on this thing here pretty quick.
Okay.
This week they are playing at. I know it's kind of bright. There we go.
There you go. That looks.
They're playing at Bay Hill.
Yeah, Arnold Palmer's place. So, and actually, going back, that's a great place where Tiger's had a lot of success. So
8 times he's won 8 times there.
Yeah, but always a great tournament. It's a great finish there. It's they get the coat from Arnie, or they did, but they get Arnie's coat, and but it's always a great tournament to watch. So,
well, boy, it was been an exciting week and a sad week, all the same. A lot of good storylines, and really bad about Tiger again. But thanks for getting that guest. I look forward to getting some maybe some more some. I don't want to say better guests because we had an expert. I'm just more uplifting things to talk about. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think this is going to be fun to where you and I can get some other just golfing guests to come on down the road and do some fun interviews. So. That's it for me, Scotty. I don't know if you got anything else on the top of your head there to talk about on that nice little bit noggin of yours.
No, Johnny. Always a pleasure. It was so good to see you last week. I mean, I just love shooting the shit about golf, and that's what I'm enjoying about this. I've always enjoyed most of the time I've enjoyed your company. We've known each other. For those that don't know, we've known each other since 2005. Yeah. We roomed together at the United States Mid-Amateur at the Honors Course in Chattanooga. So it's been a long time friendship, and I consider myself lucky.
Yeah, me too, buddy. All right. Well, good. Be good to everybody, people, and we'll see you on the fairways.